In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up this week, we get an uplifting message from someone who's locked in a hotel room for 14 days of quarantine.
It will make me rethink again about how valuable life is and how important it is for all of us to be more humane, less selfish, and be content with what we have instead of running after money, big houses, and all the rest of it. And be thankful for being in good health and seeing our families in good health as well.
And there's an urgent call for people to donate blood.
It's very important to have a constant supply from the blood donors.
Well, we've now been in lockdown proper, and if I sit out in my garden today, I can hear maybe 1 or 2 cars on the nearby main road in the last 40 minutes or so. So it seems that everybody is pretty well obeying the orders and staying at home. We might think we're going crazy, but there are some other people who have it much worse than we do. We're going to talk to one of them now. They're the people who flew into Cyprus just before the flights were all cancelled, and they were bussed straight from the airport to 14 days quarantine in local hotels. Maria Miles is in one of those hotels, I think. Where? In Limassol, Maria?
Good morning. No, I am in Larnaca. I am at the Lordos Beach Hotel, and I have to tell you that I was, from the moment the airplane landed in Larnaca in the early hours of Saturday morning, I was pleasantly surprised by the impeccable behavior, planning, organization of everything that has happened to me. And speaking from my personal experience, I don't know how other people in other hotels are faring, but I have to tell you that we are being looked after very, very well.
That's great news, because the very first people who came in a few days before you were sent up to facilities in Troodos, and we saw some awful reports in the press about the conditions there. So it looks like the authorities have managed to sort this out. And, OK, you're in a hotel, but you're locked in your room, Maria.
Yes.
What are you doing all day?
We are locked in our rooms, that's right. And, books and reading is a great consolation, I have to tell you. So flying back from London, where I visited my children, I brought with me 4 or 5 books, and I started reading. And, of course, phone calls with friends, Skype with family, and generally relaxing and accepting, and mainly accepting that this is what I have to do if we all want to get rid of this virus.
Yeah, but it must be quite mentally challenging. Yes, you've got your books and you had the forethought, I suppose, to bring the books with you, but there probably are other people who perhaps are not great readers. You do have Wi-Fi, and I think all the hotels do. You've just mentioned keeping in contact with family and friends. That must be very important, basically for your mental health, isn't it? Not to feel completely isolated.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's very important to keep in touch with loved ones and family and friends. But the other thing is that personally I decided that this is where I have to be by necessity, and I have to find a routine which will help me get through the day.
I wanted to ask you about that, because people do say that in isolation you need to structure your day.
Yes.
So
Yes.
will you talk us through your day? You wake up at what time?
Well, I wake up normal time, 7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that. I have a shower, I have my breakfast, and thankfully I have a balcony on which I can sit on my own, of course, like everybody else, and I can see the sea. And I have my coffee and my breakfast on the balcony, and that, trust me, for me it's a great advantage. After that, I would look at my emails, messages, I would read a bit. I also forced myself to do some exercises in my room.
Now, tell us about that, because I have heard that one gentleman who was training for, I think, a triathlon managed to get an exercise bike delivered to his room in the hotel so that he could keep in training. What sort of exercises do you do?
Well, I logged onto YouTube and I found home exercises without equipment, and also Pilates exercises without any equipment. And that for me is good enough. That will take about half an hour in the morning and another half an hour in the afternoon. So basically I'm doing more exercises than I would do if I were at home.
I wonder if you'll keep them up when you finally get home.
I don't know, time will show, but I would like to think that I will keep them up.
What other changes have you had to, in a sense, implement that you think you might take home with you?
Well, one, continue reading, which I have been doing since I retired anyway. Secondly, the exercises. Thirdly, to learning to sit down quietly on my own and relax or think about life, about problems, about my family, about how to solve, how to address difficult times in my life, and all this kind of thing. And also think about other people who are not as lucky as I am. Either they are sick or they are suffering from something. So really, I must be grateful, because so far I am okay.
Well, it does sound to me as if you're really managing to persuade yourself that actually you're better off than other people, and that must be very helpful in terms, again, of mental health.
Yes, I consider myself better off than many other people. First of all, because so far I am in good health, as far as I understand. Of course, time will show, as the experts tell us. And also, I am being looked after in a very comfortable hotel room. I am being fed far more food than I would eat in a day in my own home.
Tell us a little bit about the food, Maria. You get your breakfast, this is all left on a tray outside your door, I think. At what time? At the same time every day?
Yes, that's right. All meals are served in a tray, which is left between certain hours outside our door. And we just collect the tray, eat what we want, and then return the tray outside our door. But that's not all. They bring us regularly water, bottled water, coffee, tea. The other day they brought us a bag from a supermarket. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention the name.
Oh, go ahead. Everybody should be able to get credit for what they're doing.
It's Lidl supermarket. They send us a bag full of various things, including toothpaste, toothbrush, baby wipes, and various other disinfectant and various other things. Of course, everything relating to cleanliness was already in the room when we arrived.
Yes, because you have to clean your own room, I understand.
Well, it was clean. It was very clean when we came. But as long as I am here, yes, I have to look after myself and clean my room. Yes. Yes.
Okay, and what sort of food are you getting?
Very good food. Very good food. From chicken to beef to fish to mincemeat, pasta. You name it, they offer it to us.
And I understand that they've also all been asked to provide vegetarian options and gluten-free options. So it's quite difficult, possibly, for the kitchens in the hotel, because I presume that the only people in the hotel at the moment are people like you in quarantine. There won't be any tourists there anymore.
Oh, no. This was, yes, you're right. There are no tourists, obviously not. No tourists. But on Saturday evening, we arrived early Saturday morning. On Saturday evening, they called us. When I say they, I mean the nurses who are downstairs. At least they were on Saturday. I don't know if they are still around because I haven't been out of my room. They called us one by one to go downstairs to take our temperature, ask us if we have any health problems, if we need anything. And when I took the lift and I went downstairs to the reception, the exit from the lift on one side of the lobby was cordoned off, and there was army there. There were 2 army ladies there to make sure that we don't go astray and we don't mix with other people in case we are carriers.
Now, have you had the swab test, Maria? Has anybody actually taken a swab to determine whether or not you are carrying it?
No. The only test they took was our temperature on Saturday night. And if anybody had a high temperature, then they would refer them to the doctor or the hospital, or I don't know what the procedure is.
Okay.
And I wouldn't know because I was downstairs on my own, and we were called in one by one. So
has there been any medical follow-up since? Have you seen a nurse in the intervening?
Yes.
We're talking several days ago now, so are they watching to see if there are any developments?
Yes, on Monday morning, there was a knock at my door, and 2 nurses who did not come into the room, obviously. They were talking to me from the corridor, and I was inside the room. They asked me if I am okay, if I noticed any signs of high temperature or a consistent cough or anything abnormal. Basically, they asked if I was okay, if I needed anything, and they said if you need anything, you know who to call.
Right, so you've got how many more days now to go?
Until the 4th of April, which is not this Saturday, the following Saturday.
So are you counting off, like somebody in prison does, how many days are left to go?
No, Rosie, I am not. I take each day as it comes. No, I am not. Otherwise, I think I would be very concerned. I am just thankful that so far, every morning, I wake up, I don't have a temperature and no obvious signs that I have contracted this virus.
And we should say, Maria, tell us a little bit about the UK, because you came back from the UK and you'd been there, I think, for several weeks. What was the feeling like there? Because what we see on the media is that they're only now starting to take similar measures to the ones we have been doing in Cyprus for several weeks. And I got the feeling that a lot of people in the UK just were ignoring it.
Look, I went to London on the 24th of February and returned on the 21st actually, of March. In the past 2 weeks, I was staying with my son and his family. Up until the 16th of March, all schools, all nurseries, all pubs, all restaurants, everything was open and people were going about their business. The only thing that my son told me is that there were people by themselves imposed self-discipline in that there were far less people traveling on public transport, and anybody who could work from home did exactly that. Basically, people who were a bit concerned imposed self-isolation by themselves. But apart from that, everybody was out and about and very complacent about this.
What about the airport when you left? Had things started to change then?
I have never seen Heathrow Airport as I saw it on Friday night. And I've been traveling to and forth England for the past 45, 50 years, if you like.
So what was it like?
Terminal 2 was all but empty. Only the people who were traveling. There was not a single queue anywhere at the terminal. Most of the shops and the cafeterias were shut. And there were also notices at shops like Boots saying, I am apologizing to the customers, saying that we have run out of this, that, and the other, and please, you are only allowed to take 2 items of each product, whatever that is, shampoo or soap or whatever it was. As far as the supermarkets are concerned, well, I have to tell you that the Friday before, on the 20th, on Friday the 20th, I went to the supermarket to the local supermarket with my son, only to find out that there were far less people and empty shelves. Yeah, there was no soap to be found, no any kind of antiseptic, no toilet paper, no nappies for babies, no baby food, no cereal. I have never seen London like that. Never.
Wow. How did that make you feel, Maria?
Bad, very bad, and extremely sad, because people panicked, shopped in a panic, and they did not think that if they buy 10 packets of toilet paper, their neighbor or the little old lady down the road will not be able to get any toilet paper. I think it's sad. It's very sad. People must be more thoughtful. Under such circumstances, people must think of their neighbor, of a granny, of a grandfather, of disabled people who need help, not just themselves. It's not nice.
No, well, I think that message has finally got through to most people. Certainly here we seem to have been rather more disciplined, I think, about it. The supermarkets are opening at certain times for vulnerable people and so on and so forth. So, Maria, let's sort of look back. What will you take away with you when you finally get home? What will this have done to the way you look at life?
I think just as my experience during the war, during the Turkish invasion, it will make me rethink again about how valuable life is and how important it is for all of us to be more humane, less selfish, and be content with what we have, instead of running after money, big houses, and all the rest of it. And be thankful for being in good health and seeing our families in good health as well.
And you go home, have you got pets, Maria? Who's looking after any pets you have?
I don't have a pet as such, but I do feed a cat called Kiki, who appeared at my doorstep years ago, about 7-8 years ago, and she comes every morning and I feed her.
Oh my goodness. So is anybody going to be able to feed her while you're not there?
Well, I had somebody calling to the house to water the flowers outside, of course, and I also have my neighbor. I intended to be away for 2 weeks. Now I am going to ring them and see if Kiki, the cat, is still around. I'll ask them to feed her. But I'm not sure if she's still around. She must have noticed that I am not there every morning to feed her, and maybe she went to another neighbor. I hope she did.
I'm sure she'll be back as soon as she hears your car drive up, but they seem to know.
I hope so. I hope so. She has always done that any time I was away, believe it or not, whether it was for a weekend, 2 weeks, or a month. She would come back. She does come back. So I hope to find her when I go back.
We need to leave a little notice on the door saying Maria will be home a week on Saturday. And so have they told you how they're going to transfer you when you get out, and whether there are any other procedures that you will have to fill in?
Because I understand some people like me have left their car at the airport parking, or with those people who come and collect your car when you leave and then bring it back on arrival. So I will have to ask them and see if they will allow me to go and collect my car.
Okay, rather than bringing you straight up. I suppose,
Yes.
Do you know where the other people who are in the same hotel as you actually live? Because I presume they're not all from Nicosia.
No, I don't know. I have no idea. Because people on the plane, at Heathrow, on the plane, on arrival at Larnaca, and even coming to the hotel, were reserved, concerned, worried, kept a distance from each other. So we didn't talk much, really.
But you're going to be reading a few more books, and I presume if you finish all the books you brought with you, the hotel has some to give you?
I haven't asked, to tell you the truth, but I haven't even read one book. In between telephone calls and Skype, I haven't finished the first book I started.
So they should keep you going until they unlock your door. Maria, I hope, as I said at the beginning, that our fairly lengthy conversation has passed a little bit of your day in a happy way. And thank you very much for joining us and for passing on some quite important messages for those of us who are sitting with spouses or children in our homes and not totally isolated. It might be a little bit unpleasant, but I think we all feel for people like you who are in a much worse situation and managing to stay positive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosie. All the best to everybody. Thank you.
That is Maria Miles, who is in quarantine at a hotel in Larnaca. There are several hundred people in quarantine across the island, and they've got to do 14 days with pretty well no contact with anybody except perhaps some medical personnel just checking that they're okay intermittently. We wish her well, as indeed all of those who are enduring the quarantine, for everybody's sake.
You can subscribe to the Cyprus News Digest on iTunes for free and get the program downloaded to your phone or tablet so you can listen anytime, anywhere.
Since the serious lockdown a couple of days ago, not very much in Cyprus is working what we'd call normally. But one very important department is open all its usual hours. That's the blood establishment, which coordinates blood donation across the island. Its head is Socrates Menelau, and he joins us now. Socrates, we've seen appeals in the press for more people to come forward and give blood at the moment. So what's changed, apart from the fact that obviously people are not aware that in actual fact, if they want to leave their homes to come and give blood, that is one of the things they are allowed to leave home for?
So I think first it's better to start with the needs for blood products, which are much lower than before the crisis. Before the crisis, the whole country needs about 300 units of blood products each day. Now the needs are much lower, about 180 units per day.
And that presumably is because non-essential procedures in hospitals have been curtailed big time.
Exactly. That's the reason. So it's very important to have a constant coming of the blood donors. It's not so important to have 300 donors today and 400 donors tomorrow and have on Monday and Tuesday 20 or 50. It's very important for two reasons: to have a constant coming of the blood donors, to avoid many donors be at the places at the same time in crowded places, because it's very important for the pandemic, and also it's very important because one of the blood products produced are platelets, which have only 5 days shelf life. So it's very important not to have big crowded places today and very much lower tomorrow. It's very important to have a constant supply from the blood donors.
Right. Now then, how often do your regular donors come to give blood?
The regular donors can come every 3 months males and 4 months females.
So it is important to have a big, if you like, pot of people who do come every few months, but I presume that you're also now looking for new donors. So how do you test that the products they're going to give you are safe to pass on to other people? And that's particularly important, I guess, at the moment with the coronavirus.
Yes, of course. Each blood donation is checked for syphilis, hepatitis C, hepatitis B, and HIV. And we do that with two different methods. We have ELISA, and also we have molecular testing, which is the best available method at this point. Also now with the coronavirus, there is no test at this point to check the blood donations, but it's very important that our physicians make specific questions to the blood donors. They ask that if they have traveled the last 28 days, if they have symptoms of fever or pneumonia, or they are close to someone who have coronavirus. So it's very important to have these questions. Also, we check the temperature, which is a step we didn't do before. So there are some steps which were not followed before the crisis.
Do we know whether or not, if, suppose I turn up, I haven't been abroad, I haven't been in contact, as far as I know, with anybody who's got COVID-19. You check for the other things that you said, but just suppose I was carrying coronavirus. Would that be in my blood if you gave it to somebody else? Is that not clear?
So it's still not clear, and nobody can answer this question definitely. But the instructions we have from ECDC and the Council of Europe is that there is no proof that coronavirus is transmitted with blood products. Of course, there is no proof for the opposite as well. So still everybody is looking all aspects and trying to solve all the problems.
And assuming that within the next few weeks the lockdown stops, will you expect to see a surge in people coming again? Because once again, are they aware of what you've just said about the fact that it's important to have a steady flow of donors to maintain the supplies?
Yes, the problem is that blood donors in Cyprus, a big amount of them, about 40 to 50%, come to the permanent blood donation centers in all towns. Also, the other 50% goes to mobile sessions in the villages, in the army, in the ministers, everywhere. There's different organizations. So after this thing is over, we have to start all those blood donation sessions we are now void. We're going to have to reschedule the whole program.
And one final question. If somebody is listening to this and thinking, well, I can sign up as a blood donor, is it better for them to telephone their local centre to see when is a good time to come?
Yes.
Rather than, I mean, you don't actually make appointments, I suppose, but you can say if you come between these hours, it won't be so busy.
Yeah, we're trying to have our organization in just a very different way of working. We're still trying to do various methods. As an example, I can say that tonight we have a blood donation session in the village Lithrodontas, and we are going to send messages calling the persons from with surname from A to E to come in the first hour, some others to come in the second hour. So we're just checking our possibilities to reorganize the whole service in a different aspect.
And avoid large crowds.
Yeah, that's very important. We don't want large crowds. We don't want everybody to come today and tomorrow. We are trying to have a new way of thinking, at least for the next couple of months, to have a steady blood donor income.
That is Socrates Menelaou, who is chief of the Pan-Cyprian Blood Establishment. So, blood donors are needed, and if you can help, then do check out the available information. Or you can telephone 22 80 9098. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.